Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. The famous words of the prophet. Comfort, comfort my people, says Hashem. This is the opening of the Haftorah that we read on Shabbat, Parshat Vaetchanan, that we should be comforted after the 3 weeks of mourning. During the 3 weeks of mourning between the fast of the 17th of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, we read 3 Haftarot of Puranut, of retribution, that speak about the impending destruction of the temple and the exile from the land. But after Tisha B'Av, beginning with this Shabbat, Parshat Vaetchanan, we read 7 Haftarot of comfort, where we are comforted by the prophets in the run-up to Rosh Hashanah. And the most famous, of course, is Haftarah Nachamu, to be comforted. What is the point of this? Well, clearly Hashem is teaching us the importance of the concept of Nechama, of comfort. If somebody has been bereaved, people must come to that person and console them. How does one console a mourner? What does one say exactly? How do you walk into a shiva house? It's a very awkward situation. And indeed, King Solomon tells us in the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, that if you have a choice between going to a Beita Avel, to a shiva house, or a mishte, a party such as a wedding, rather go to the Beita Avel, rather go to the house of mourning. Ki zeh sof kol adam, because this is the end of every person, and the living should take it to heart. There's more that you can learn at a shiva house than you can learn at a wedding. But of course it has to be done properly. So let me share with you some of the steps and some of the most important things to keep in mind when one is paying a shiva call. Cast your mind back to the Parsha of Shmot. Moshe is in the wilderness tending to the flocks, and suddenly he sees something very unusual. He sees a snare, a bush, and this bush is burning, but it's not being consumed. It continues to burn and burn and burn, but the flames are not destroying it. And he turns aside to see it. And of course, this is when Hashem first communicates to Moshe and gives him this mission. And here the commentators, in particular, Rashi asks, why does Hashem appear to Moshe in a burning bush? Perhaps it should be something a little bit more grand. Maybe it should be a tall tree. Why a tiny little bush? And in particular, it was a thorn bush. And Rashi quotes the verse from Tehillim, from Psalms, Imor anochi betzara. I am with you in your suffering. This is what Hashem was saying to Moshe. I am with the Jewish people in their suffering. I know that they are suffering in Egypt. And therefore, when I appear to you, I'm not going to appear to you in some grand, comfortable setting. I'm going to appear to you in a thorn bush. Now, clearly, Hashem does not suffer whatsoever. But he was teaching us a very important lesson, that when it comes to consoling mourners, we have to act in such a way that we feel their pain. We share their pain. And in fact, the Talmud says, in the context of visiting a sick person, that if you go there, you take away some of their suffering, some of their pain, because just by being there, you are assisting them. So the first important lesson of a shiva house is simply just to go there. Not even to say anything whatsoever, but just to be there. Because the mourner can feel that they are being left, they are abandoned, they have lost something. And just to have their friends and family around them is so important, that they feel that this person is with me in my suffering. What should a person say at a shiva house? As strange as it may seem, actually one doesn't have to say anything whatsoever. People can begin to give all types of reasons and philosophies why it is that the person passed away, but this will grate on the ear of the mourner. They don't want to hear this whatsoever. Rather, and this the Talmud explains, one should allow the mourner to sit quietly. We have a custom that we serve to the mourner at the first meal following the funeral, eggs. Well, why eggs? What's special about eggs? And says the Talmud, Beitzim ein lahem peh. They have no mouth. They have no natural opening. You have to crack them open, but they have no opening. And this is like the mourner who has no mouth, who cannot adequately say and express what needs to be said. Their feelings are so very deep. And it used to be the custom in the old days that the mourner would just sit quietly. So when one comes into a shiva house, of course, you can greet the mourner, but then to just sit quietly. And if they want to say something, let them initiate the subject. And don't speak about everyday mundane things. Speak about how they're feeling. How do you feel? How is it now that you don't have a mother anymore? How is it that you don't have a father anymore? Don't come up with silly platitudes. And in fact, speak about the person who has passed away. This will bring great comfort to the mourner. And one has to pick up on the body language of the mourner. You have to see when they perhaps are a bit irritable, perhaps when they're tired. And that is the cue to you that the time has come to leave, not to overstay your welcome. And remember that the mourner isn't there to entertain you. They don't have to put out food. Sometimes I go to a shiva house and it's a catered affair with all types of foods and salads and cold meats. That's not the idea whatsoever. On the contrary, we should be bringing food to the family that is bereaved so that it can take their mind off all of their normal, regular household chores and allow them to focus on their mourning. So the mourner doesn't have to entertain you. You have come to be with them and to console them and to speak to them about the person who has passed away. Again, picking up on those body movements, on the cues from them, and working out how long your stay should be and how appropriate it should be. And when a person takes leave of a mourner, he says the following very ancient words: Hamakom yenachem etchem b'toch she'ar avalei Tzion v'Yushalayim. May the Almighty, the Omnipresent, comfort you together with the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Who are the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem? Well, it's the entire Jewish people. We still continue to mourn the destruction of both of the temples and the exile of our people into the diaspora. And this is what the prophet is saying. Nachamu, nachamu ami. It's true, says God. I had to destroy the temples. I had to exile you from your land. You had acted in a way that was inappropriate. Nevertheless, I have sensitivity to your pain and your suffering, and therefore I'm going to give you a degree of comfort. And I'm going to promise you, says the prophet, that you will return to your land. And this is something that we have seen in our generation. The beginning of the comfort of the Jewish people, that after 2,000 years, they have come back to their land. Nevertheless, it is not a complete return. The temple is still not built. We still don't have a country that operates 100% on Torah values. And therefore, when we greet and we leave the mourner, we say to them that God should comfort you together with the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. That day should come that we should all feel that comfort. And when one leaves the Shiva house, you should leave perhaps in a sense of elation, that you have come into contact with somebody and with something and with an experience that is able to uplift you and to move you and to become a better person. And in the run-up to Rosh Hashanah, I would like to end with those words, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, that all of us should be comforted amongst the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem, and that we should see, please God, soon in our days, the rebuilding of the temple and the return of the Jewish people to Eretz Yisrael. Good Shabbat.